boys attending a trade union meeting with their fathers are very conscious of the financial effect on them.
But when I was at work, I used to get just under £3 a week. But now I only get 32 shillings. And pocket money, I used to get £1. Now I only get about 5 shillings. Well, I go to Boys Brigade, and that only costs me 2p a week. But night school costs me about 4 or 5 shillings a week bus fares. And on the weekend, I can just go to the football match on a Saturday afternoon.
Well, before, I could afford to go out with maybe £2 or £3 in my pocket, out with my mates and enjoy myself. That would last a week. Now I only get about £1 pocket money. Doesn't go very far, that. I mean, by the time you go out with the lads, you go for a drink, you come back, you get about £4, but it's got to last you the rest of the week, that. And you can't afford cigarettes, you can't afford women, you can't go nowhere, really.
£1 pocket money used to last a week, but you only get about 5 shillings now. It doesn't go anywhere. I've just lost interest in work now. Just have to think about what you're going to do now for the career.
Why have you lost interest in work?
Well, I've been on the door a month. It doesn't seem as though I'm going to get a job now.
Yeah, you get fed up just sitting in the house reading books all day, you know. When it comes to night time, you just sat watching the telly. I mean, when you were at work, you were like occupied, you know. You had something to do at work, you know. When you come home, watch your telly, you'd like it, you know, but when you just sat in the house all day, telly comes at night time, you know, you don't want to watch it, you know, you feel fed up with the thing.
When you go out with the lads, you like to enjoy yourself, but you can't enjoy yourself if you haven't got any money.
Why not?
Well, when you go out with them, they expect you to go to the same places as they do. But when they go to the pictures, you spend your money on the pictures. You're left with buttons. It's hard even to pay for your bus fare, never mind going in the pictures. And it affects your hobbies and all. If you're saving records, you can't afford to buy a record a week if you're on the door. So you have to cut down on all your things. You can't be expected to enjoy yourself when you're on the door.
You know, very rare I go out with a girl now. You know, well, you can't really get very far on about 15 shillings with a girl.
Because you can't afford to take them out every night. I'm only getting 10 shillings now. I was used to about 25 shillings. Well, when you take them out, you more or less have to pay for everything that they have. So when you take them out once, that's about all you can do.
Do the girls ever offer to pay for you?
Well, they offer, but it's more or less accepting charity, taking it from them. Well, you feel awful taking it, don't you?
Boys are concerned with entertainment. Men are concerned with feeding their families. The consumption of meat is a fair guide to living standards. To what extent have the butchers of West Hartlepool been affected by unemployment in the town?
Well, oddly enough, my business hasn't suffered at all. As a matter of fact, over Christmas and New Year, we had an all-time record. Now, don't ask me why or how. This is contrary to all my expectations, but the facts prove, the figures prove, and my accountant can substantiate it, that I had an all-time record, both for volume and money and every other way, I'm delighted to say.
Have you got no way of accounting for this while there are 3,000 unemployed in West Hartlepool?
Well, boastfully, yes, because I give good value for money, and I think now people find it's better to take the trouble to get that bit extra value and travel another 100 yards if necessary to get it. Conversely, you see, I think that when we've got an era of full employment and prosperity, which we all desire, let's make no mistake about it, we don't want to have people unemployed. That's obviously nonsense. But they get a little careless. They tend to go just to the nearest shop at hand, pop in, spend the money. Now, I'm not saying that all the shopkeepers are villains. I don't want any misconstruction about that either. But there are better values in some places than others. Now, you may say this is boasting. Well, it's boasting. But oddly enough, since times have become worse in figures of unemployment, so has my business prospered. And I feel there must be a lesson for the shopkeeper.
Many unemployed people have told me that they're eating less meat. How do you account for this in the light of your own experience?
Well, it just doesn't apply in my case. People are not eating. One can see that they're not eating less meat. In my case, they are eating more meat. And I think it's terribly difficult in a business the size of mine, which covers the entire spread of the town, to say that people are eating, say, more stewing beef and less well, fillet steaks and such like, which are always scarce anyhow, let's face it. I don't think that there's any change in the habits of the people. If it's here, it doesn't come to my business, and I'm not seeing it yet. I've got no evidence of that.
Not all the butchers in the town share that point of view.
Well, things have dropped a little bit during the last 6 months or so, with so many people being out of work. Some people don't come in for meat now, I don't think they can afford it. We have other people now, instead of getting a joint the weekend, they maybe get half a pound of chops or a pound of chops. People buying smaller joints. They've cut out such things as frozen foods, which are more of a luxury, and in general, all of them are slightly cutting down.
Are your prices competitive with other butchers in the town?
Yes, I think we're as competitive as anyone. We have a very competitive block where we are here. There's about 4 butcher shops, and we have to be really low down in price to get the trade.
Do the customers who buy the cheaper joints tell you what else they're buying instead of meat?
Well, yes, I think they're mostly buying potatoes, and maybe when the vegetables are cheaper, they'll buy a lot more vegetables, make do with less meat. But on the whole, it's not drastic yet, although we are expecting it in the future.
For unemployed families in real need, the NAB is able to supplement their dole. Instead of queues at the offices, the assessors visit men in their own homes. The number of unemployed men receiving assistance has more than doubled in the last year. Of the 3,660 people who've lost their jobs, 40% are receiving allowances from the board.
Now then, I have the form which you filled in at the employment exchange, from which I see that you're getting an employment benefit, which isn't quite sufficient to meet your commitments. I'm pleased you've applied, because there are still a lot of people who don't know the facilities that are available, and these are the people we want to reach. It's strictly confidential too, I must assure you of that. No one will know anything at all about it. And above all, if any grant is payable to you, please don't regard it as charity. It's a right you've got. I have to ask you a number of questions, but as I said before, it's confidential all the time. How long have you been out of work?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. What rent do you pay here?
£1.16 and 6.
£1.16 and 6. And how many children have you?
6 children, including the triplets.
6, including the triplets.
The information gained from these interviews is filed, checked, and assessed. On what basis is an award made?
On the basis of scales approved by Parliament, which, when rent is added, gives a basic standard from which we work. This standard, of course, can be adjusted to meet the special needs of any particular case.
How much flexibility do you have for special cases?
We have quite a lot. Considerable discretion to meet the needs for extra fuel in the case of people who need it, for extra nourishment if a person is sick. In fact, in many ways we can meet the needs of any particular case.
What qualifications do your officers have, the people who make these awards?
What qualifications do they have? This is a government department, as you know. They're civil servants. They have the qualities of humanity, understanding, and sound common sense.
Do you think that civil servants rather than social workers are better fitted to make this kind of decision?
Oh, yes, I think so.
What is the average payment made by the National Assistance Board?
It varies, of course. The size of the family, the amount of rent a man pays has an effect on the allowance he'll get. But in general, and in the northeast region, the average supplement to the unemployment benefit is 30 shillings and 7pence a week.
How do you encourage the eligible people to apply?
By all the means we can. We have leaflets and posters in every post office and employment exchange in the country. We have our contacts with the various organizations, the voluntary organizations. We do our best to encourage people who are entitled, or who we think are entitled, to apply as soon as they can.
Are you satisfied that all the people who are eligible do apply?
Well, we try to reach them, but we can't tell, of course, who needs. The facilities are available. We try to spread them as widely as we can, but we can never tell whether everybody who is entitled to it is getting it.
Even with national assistance, prolonged unemployment creates difficult financial problems for some people. They're not completely destitute, but their reserves are gone, if they ever existed, and the family is wholly dependent on unemployment pay and any supplementaries it can get. The effects are more evident on families like this, and they tend to become increasingly despondent.
Well, I've been out of work 8 months now, and things are getting pretty grim, like. can't do justice to the children, you can't get them the proper food and clothing.
How much were you earning when you were employed?
About £18 a week.
And how much unemployment pay do you get now?
I get £6 from the labour, and it made up to £8 with the National Assistance Board.
Do you get any other kind of assistance? Do you
No, I don't get no assistance from anywhere.
Well, do you get free meals?
Free meals for the children, but the youngest one, Kenneth, won't stop at school, but he's the oldest two get there late.
Did you have any savings or any commitments when you finished work?
Well, I had no savings, no, and commitments, I'm paying for them now, like £2.15 a week.
That's things that you bought when you were still in work?
Yes.
Well, how else do you break your budget down? How do you spend the £8 a week?
Well, there's like 31 shilling for the rent, like, and then there's 9 shilling for coal, £2.15 for tickets that we've had, electric light, 3 shilling a week, and then there's the gas, money for the gas.
What about food? How much on food do we?
Oh, about £2 a week of food.
Mrs. Coomer, how do you feed a family of 6 on £2 a week?
One has to. You have to just go around and find the cheapest stuff you can find.
How many meals a day do you have?
Me and my husband have one we do without to give the children. We won't let them go without.
What do you have for your 1 meal a day?
Oh, we have a dinner, and that's all. But the children do get everything.
How do you go on for meat?
Oh, I only get the stewing meat, you know. Half a crown's worth, that's all I get.
Do you manage meat every day?
Well, I used to get a shilling's worth of mincemeat. And that has to do with a lot of us.
What about milk?
I get 1 free pint and 1 cheap token.
And do you manage to get fruit for yourself and your husband and the kiddies?
No, none at all.
How about vegetables?
Just the potatoes and a 6-penny tin of peas.
Apart from food, what other things do you economise on?
Well, mostly me food and me coal. And when we have no coal, well, we just have to do without. Or chop something up, put on the fire to make a fire for the children.
What sort of things can you chop up?
Oh, I've chopped my table up and I've chopped 2 dining room chairs up. Even my shopping bags that's gone in the fire. We just have to do it, because we won't let the children go without a fire. And if we have nothing to chop up, we'll sit round the oven, the gas oven, with it on, to keep warm.
Now, what about the gas? Do you spend a lot then on the gas in order to keep warm?
Oh yes, 2 shilling to 3 shilling a day I spend on the gas if we sit round it.
Has the health of the children been affected?
To now they're being all right, like it's mostly me and my husband. We've gone down in weight terrible. I used to weigh 8 stone, now I weigh 6 stone 7. My husband used to weigh 10 stone, now he's only 7 stone 8. And when we have nothing at all, I took his suit to the pawn shop.
My heart is broken, but what can I? That's crying inside me is broken. I'll try my best not to cry by and by when the final well must be.
No longer meeting at work, a gulf opens between the employed and the unemployed. A gulf which is not bridged in the pubs and clubs. There are few ways of meeting friends without spending at least a little money, and the unemployed have no surplus. Unemployment isolates them.
I know quite a few people we used to go out with, you know, and say them, I'd bring the wife out tonight. No, we can't afford it, staying at home.
When they're employed, they used to come, but we don't see them as often as we would like to. This, of course, is due to the financial embarrassment. This, of course, can be based on one thing. They like the pint, we used to have our drink together. This, of course, doesn't happen. I would say that, far and large, this is going to be possibly a social stigma between the worker and the non-worker. We hope not, but we want to try to, wherever possible, keep our relationships and our friendships that we have done over the past.
But I often think, you know, when you talk about things like this, that the discussion about